Morning, Hank.
Good morning, Chair.
How are things in snowy Stratford or St. Thomas?
They're actually beautiful today. It's the first day that the sun's out. It's shining. It's nice right now.
Oh, sure. You're making that up, aren't you?
No.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. This will call the meeting to order, and I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands of the First Nations that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. In particular, I acknowledge the history, spirituality, and culture of the territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Dawa, and Potawatomi Nation, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen, the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen and Ojibwe Nation. As the traditional keepers of this land, we recognize and deeply appreciate the historic connection to this area, as well as the Métis, Inuit, and other indigenous people whose ancestors shared these lands and waters. May we live with respect for each other on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. Miigwech. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Kayla to conduct the annual election of chair for 2026.
Thank you. Under section 36, item 1 of the Community and Safety Policing Act 1999, members of the Police Service Board shall elect a chair at the board's first meeting in each year. At this time, I would like to call for nominations for chair from the floor.
John.
John Thompson, will you accept this nomination?
Yes, I will.
Are there any additional nominations for chair on the floor? Hearing none, I declare that nominations be closed and that John Thompson will be the board chair for 2026.
Thank you, guys. Board.
Under section 36, item 2 of the Community and Safety Policing Act 1999, members of the Police Service Board may also elect a vice chair at the first meeting in each year. And the vice chair shall act as the chair if the chair is absent or if the chair's position is vacant. In the past years, members have elected not to elect a vice chair, but given the recent changes to the act, it is recommended that a vice chair be elected. At this time, I would like to call for nominations for vice chair from the floor.
I'll nominate Marion Kepke.
Oh, good. I don't have that much work to do this year.
Marion Kepke, will you accept the nomination?
All right. That was a bombshell.
Are there any additional nominations for vice chair from the floor? Hearing none, I declare the nominations for vice chair to be closed and Marion Kepke will be board vice chair for 2026. Congratulations.
Great.
At this point, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Chair Thompson.
New winger.
That really quick on it.
Sounds like a setup to me.
I just had my mouth open to nominate him.
All right, moving on to item number 4, approval of the agenda, and I'd like to have items before call for the motion. I'd like to have a report on building facilities. And maybe this could come right after item 15, report from the HR manager. And Kayla, could you make a note to include the item on future agendas, a standing item just under reports, so we can make sure nothing gets lost or falls through the cracks on building and facilities. And secondly, other items in new business, I like to add an 18G for a report on police, race, and identity-based data. Is there anyone else that has anything to add to the
Say that
agenda?
again.
Oh, sorry, it's a report on police, race, and identity-based data.
Okay.
The report was included in your package. It just wasn't showing on the agenda, that's all.
I have one additional item. Asking for a policy review on board expenses.
Any other additions to the agenda? Hearing none, if I could have someone make a motion to the agenda as amended. All right, thank you. All right, all in favor? Any declaration or conflict of interest arising out of the minutes and matters listed on the agenda? None. Presentations and deputations. We have Mike again.
Is Mike?
He's away in training.
Okay. We're not ignoring like promotion, it's just he's never around. All right, second item is the Citizens on Patrol Program recognition.
So they should be out in the lobby. I'll go get them shortly. Do you want just a brief reminder on the program? Because it's been, I think, since fall that we looked at that. So the Citizens on Patrol program, we weren't even able to determine when it actually started. It was back in the week sometime. So the current person that's running it, one of the early adopters that had been running before he got there. But essentially, the program ran for many years, 20+ years here. If you recall from the board reports, we had to take a look at the program just because of a lot of the changes that have happened in policing. So in order to keep that program running, we'd have to look at a whole bunch of different things, including bias-free policing training, a bunch of training for the members to be able to do that. There were some concerns that were raised over insurance and some different things, potential WSIB coverage, should any of them fall and be injured and that sort of thing. So we had to look around. A lot of these programs have been shut down. There's only one or two that are still operating, but they're operating in larger centers where they're providing vehicles, they're providing uniforms for them and things like that that just weren't practical for us. So we made the decision to go to the membership and talk to them about, because they've been sponsored for the last number of years by the River District, that we looked at seeing whether they want to become an entity of the River District, and they chose not to, and that they just fold the unit at that point. So I attended a sort of a wrap-up meeting with them somewhere in mid-December, and what we've done is invited them to all come to the board meeting today and be recognized for, as pre-weather, all 7 of them are planning to be here, so I'll go and see who's there, but yeah, it's been an engaged for quite a number of years, so.
Yeah.
Is it possible for us to get the names of all 7, whether that's included in the,
Yeah, they're
It'll be in the minutes.
even if they're not here?
Yeah.
But so we record that. Thank you.
Sure.
Will we have a few minutes after to just kind of chat with them, or
We can if you wish.
presentation and out the door, or what?
That was a plan, but we can.
Yeah, you want party girl?
Stay for a call?
Refreshments would have been good.
Do a quick muffin run, people.
Timmy says you could pick them up and wait by.
Make a note.
We could do a fundraising for recipe swaps for muffins.
That one long time. Yeah, we did an old town police cookbook a while ago, and we had it all bound up and people could buy them for $5.
Never knew that.
Mhm.
There you
Five
go.
bucks is pretty cheap.
Yep,
Inflation.
yeah,
There you go.
but we did. It went over well.
I was gonna say that probably would.
Yeah.
That in the police calendar. Okay, I'll behave. I need coffee.
It sounds like you've had enough.
How are you, Rob?
I'm good.
You guys?
File down so you can all get in. How are you doing?
Great. Need a bigger room. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, very good.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. Appreciate it on this stormy, snowy day. As you know, we're here to recognize your contributions to the Owen Sound Police Service. For the last, Dave said 20, I read someplace it was 30 years for Citizens on Patrol. And I think you performed a valuable service over the years. And I think based on some of the issues that have come up recently, changes in with the Community Safety Policing Act and looking around some of the other areas we have. I think there was a collective decision made at one of your meetings back in November that probably now is the time to retire the unit, as it were. But we didn't want to just have it go away. We wanted to recognize those people who contributed the most to it. So with that being said, great to now you got me. I'm Brian Woods. Please, you're Brian. And Rick, we're over here.
I earned it.
Okay. And Ralph, sorry, Ralph. Yes, please. And John Giroux. General. Thank you. And Robin Connor. Thank you, Rob. Jeff, Rick. That's it.
Well,
Here's the very end.
here's the coordinator.
Oh,
Not too
last
much.
but not least.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, a lot of years, in this service, maybe we can just go through and everybody can say how long, if they know exactly how long they're doing it, just for the board members.
Yeah, from our boss, yeah. And, I guess I started in '93 with the COP and moved to the auxiliary unit. So, another staff sergeant. For a number of years, and then back to the COP. So my neighborhood of 32.5 years.
18 when you started? 18 when you started?
Yeah, looking forward to the pension.
I bet. I hear next year we're gonna double it.
I've been there since 2003.
I've been here roughly 10 years, I don't know, I was like 10, roughly 10 years. I was also an auxiliary and special cost service. I've been working approximately 10 years. The hours put in, I think, 30 years.
I was gonna say 10, but these guys were here before me, so I don't know, time flies.
Us guys been 19. We came on when Tom McKay and Rob Mepstead were ahead of our group.
Yeah, the 19 years. Yeah, together.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
A lot of time, a lot of hours, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So what are you going to think?
Good to see you.
Good pleasure. John, that to you?
Don't realize what people do after hours.
Thanks, JP. See you.
That's what he's gonna do after on the golf course.
Just too soft.
Taking time out of your day to come and. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah, I know, for sure.
We can maybe move over to the classroom, we'll just take a picture, group photo over there, for the backdrop.
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
You.
Well, all of us over there? Wow.
Sure.
Sure.
Oh, wait.
Oh, sweet.
That's pretty cool. I tend to like to sleep at night.
It's
So I'm trying to sleep.
It's a thing that the other day, heard last year that happened to.
Yeah.
Hank, you'll be wondering where the hell everybody went.
Oh, he's listening.
Yeah.
I am here, sir. Thank you very much. I am listening.
People that I didn't realize that.
Yeah, the same. Father-in-law used to do that
That's a lot.
in the 80s.
Nice. Then.
Yeah.
Aging myself, but he used to drive our bus when I coached the attack.
Did you really?
Way back. That was before Wood funeral.
Really?
Is
He
that
just
the
farmed
funeral
then,
home?
didn't he?
Pardon?
He just farmed then, didn't he?
Well, he was working at, like, filling in at funeral homes.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a big success. He was really ticked that he didn't do it 30 years before that,
Yeah.
but
Waiting for. Right.
Well, that was nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
Right, moving on, confirmation of the minutes of the public session held December 16th. And there was just one note on the minutes regarding the remediation of the mold. And I think Craig, you mentioned that the only areas that were identified were fixed, but there were some other.
No, none of, remediation hasn't taken place. Much as, I guess remediation means you're supposed to fix it, which is that definition should have been done when it was identified, because nothing's been done, but it's now, that's September, October.
December, well, yeah, it was October. I think.
Yeah, it was in the November, December meeting, and it's, I just happened to notice that it said that it had been remediated, but arrangements were made, but apparently were not made. It remains outstanding despite the fact that it obviously is a concern, or they need to recommend that it be remediated.
I just am curious, a lot of these things maybe are falling off now that Brady's not there.
Brady's still
Or
there.
Brady's, yes, he's still there.
Well, leaving.
Well, this has been,
September 9th was the date that the mold and the cell
It's not
block
gonna be
was
much longer.
identified.
oh, so it's not gonna get better,
No.
not sure how it can get worse, but it's not gonna get better.
That's why we've added it as a standing item on the agendas going forward, so we don't, nothing falls through the cracks on it. Bill?
I guess it's connected with that, but in the short term, recognizing it's important to get that remediation initiated, and we're heading into a budget year. I'm wondering, does the board send an email or a note or indicating requesting a status update and anticipated time for remediation?
I think we would probably assign that to Tony.
Yeah, I can provide an update. I spoke with Brady this past week. So the vendor that was involved in remediation, Belfour, provided a estimate that had a very high price to it. And so they decided to source out a couple other vendors that do remediation. So they were expecting this week to have an updated quote.
Okay.
And from there, they're going to plan to do the remediation. With the remediation, there's a lot of tiles you can see have got some staining in it. So once that remediation is complete, then facilities is expected to replace all the ceiling tiles that so they're consistent throughout the building. So I also spoke to Brady about a long list of things and provide certain updates, but
Now, if they fix the mold, will that fix the cause?
so the cause has got to do with the ventilation system, the HVAC system. So they're going to recommission that this year. It's got to do with air pressure coming in and out of the building, especially in the summer months, creating condensation that forms on the pipes and then drips down onto the
The ceiling tiles?
So that's going to be in the works this year.
Okay.
So there's a long list of other things, but I don't know if now's the time to give a full update on that or.
We'll do that at the item 14.
Yeah, I think.
There are lots of things that have been scheduled that have never been completed.
Yeah.
That's my only concern, and that's why we want to address it, keep it on the
Agenda.
monthly agenda. Is it, just as an example, when I arrived in 2019, the brickwork was a major issue, and it was urgent, needed to be done, and there was a recommendation that the building be clad steel, and that was budgeted a number of years, and nothing has yet transpired. That's 6 years later. Well, coming on 7 years later now. It's been scheduled, it's been budgeted, it's been
Kick down the street.
just much like many other things, it's planned, but it doesn't come to fruition.
All right.
I just have one question.
Mhm.
Is health and safety, are they kept up to date on everything that's going on in that? Yeah,
Yes,
so they're involved.
yes, they are. So I would suggest that there's a good relationship between the association and the police service. Otherwise, you'd find yourself in a much different position.
Of course.
All right, so with those changes to the minutes, could I have someone move to accept Gary? Seconder, Carol? Okay, all in favor? Gary. Any business arising out of the public session minutes of the mold issue? All right, moving on to item number 9, correspondence received. There's in your package, you would have seen a letter from Crime Stoppers of Great Bruce. There's the December 25 board members program report. Also, there was the letter from Solicitor General's office regarding the budget, and basically that talk was from Michael Kersner and Robert Flack, providing information on the power of municipalities, mayors, and police service boards in establishing a police service board budget, particularly in municipalities with strong mayor powers. The other item is basically a letter out that actually was Deputy Chief Bishop that penned that letter and went out to the Minister of Finance regarding the pre-budget consultation submissions that we're having, and we also signed that, and it was sent out prior to January, prior to the deadline. I can't remember what it was, but it's maybe just a little bit of background on that letter. On January 8th, the Police Services Board and municipalities in Ontario were provided with an opportunity to contribute insights into shaping efforts to address pressing challenges such as public safety, firefighting, corrections, animal welfare, human trafficking, domestic partner violence, auto theft, and justice bail reform. Our submission, as you probably noticed, focused on rising costs providing policing and the challenges being faced by small and mid-sized services in Ontario, and the impact of the $77 million in funding that was only provided to certain municipalities, and a request to the minister to implement a long-term equitable funding model for all services across the province. Any questions on any of that letter or anything else? It did go out, out. I know Amy
Just
sent it out. didn't-
if I could comment, the city was looking for a copy of that letter. They told them that would go to the board first before it would be provided to them. I guess they didn't know about the submissions, but I got a last minute scrambled email asking for asking me to work on it in the evening to provide some input from their submission that had to be completed the next day, or by the next day, and then they advised that we'd already put some time and effort into ours and submitted it. They asked for a copy. I told them that it of course through the police service board minutes.
Yes.
Through you, Chair. How does the feedback communication loop happen when the board and these services sends a letter like this? A, do you expect ever to get an answer? Or is there even just the standard acknowledgement the letter has been received and thank you for your input? How?
I expect the latter.
Okay, but it's part of the process. You would expect that they would acknowledge receipt of that.
receipt, and then we'd wait to see what was contained in the budget to see if any of the items in our letter had been addressed.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving on to item number 10, Chair's Report. On December 30th, I attended a swearing in and appointment ceremony for 3 new grants from OPC. And on January 16th, Chief Ambrose presented the budget to council, as you all know. And more detailed discussion around the budget comes up later under new business, and we can talk more about it at that point in time. Under governance, I don't have anything under governance at this time. Hank, do you have anything for governance?
Thank you, Chair. The only thing I would suggest is just pay attention to IG memo number 8 that went out in December with the decisions, the findings reports, and the decisions by the IG. There are 9 decisions in total that were reached. None of them directly impacted Owen Sound, but the content within the decisions for other departments are of value to Owen Sound Board as well. So, and the whole province for that matter. The nice part about the decisions as well is the IG didn't focus on negativity. There's some positive things that he really highlighted with some of the complaints that came through and as a result of the investigation. So I just encourage the board to take a few minutes to read that, and it's on the IOP website.
And you said it's memo number 8?
IG memo 8, and on the IOP website, there's 8 decisions. 7 that are actually have a findings report, and sorry, a total of 9 decisions, 7 that have findings reports. But they are relevant to like the Owen Sound Board, every board for that matter, even though they're not directly directed towards you folks.
Just generally you don't want to see your name on the list, is what you're saying.
In most cases, I'd agree with you, but in this case here, some of the reports are actually very complimentary of the police service and the investigations they conducted. So again, not only is it a finding of misconduct or a finding of poor service, they highlight good service. So there's some good reading there.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, did you have something?
No, I've reviewed all those. I'm on the mailing list when they do come in. I will look at them if anything comes up. As Hank said, there's nothing that directly impacts us, but it's some good reading. There's a couple in there with respect to some board member removal decisions that they made the previous year. But again, I don't think it's anything that
Yeah, I scanned it too, and I didn't see anything that was a big issue. But okay, good. Anything else, Hank?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to December monthly reports, CIB, etc.
Thank you, Chair. So the report for the Criminal Investigations Branch is want to highlight a few items on the report. We could see in December a fairly moderate increase in the number of frauds reported. But as you'll see in the report, there was a couple of frauds that were of a significant loss to the victim. So our crime unit is investigating cryptocurrency fraud where a citizen unfortunately was defrauded of $4 million. So that investigation is going to be quite involved, and it'll have to occur over several months. It'll involve a lot of warrants, etc. There's also a $70,000 fraud involving an email scam, which is also being investigated.
Inspector, just a comment. Sir, those as I understand it, those cryptocurrency frauds are initiated from a crypto machine located in the city of Owen Sound?
This one in particular was not.
Okay,
No,
but there is one in Owen Sound, correct?
There's at least one that I know of. There may be 2 now. There's definitely one at the store on 8th Street. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the large city just recently that city council issued a ban on cryptocurrency machines located in city limits. I'm wondering if there should be anything that comes from the city on that, because I think we know a lot of the crypto transactions sometimes lead to fraud. And I'm just wondering if the police services board position to talk to the city and see if something can be done. Does that make sense?
I can tell you that in this particular instance, it was like an investment style. It was through messaging, and the fraudster convinced them to transfer.
Yeah.
As opposed to.
There have been other instances locally where it has been as a result of schemes, and I know it was one of the top ones that's great, the best as well. So there have been issues, and I guess there are legitimate purposes for them, people to invest and take out money, but certainly legal.
Activity.
A
is
lot of
prevalent.
times those machines are used to actually carry out the fraud.
Yes.
As opposed, this one was the person already owned cryptocurrency, was convinced to transfer.
Okay.
But your point's fully valid. Would they use those machines to transfer traditional financial instruments through that machine?
Marion, first thing.
So would it be beneficial in Carol's report if she added a motion from the board to request the city to investigate the potential of banning cryptocurrency?
Burlington that's putting it forward to theirs right now.
Oh, thank you.
So that will help the clerk.
I think, and I agree, but if this board made a recommendation or some sort of formal recognition that this is a community safety concern that, to protect, but actually phrase the recommendation based on, case studies or others, I think it would help, even if it can't be done for although it's 2 months before. But in addition, I'm wondering if it would be helpful for the board to also have, or the chair and chief, to have a conversation with our investment community. Because they are the content experts about investments, investment security, and to start to expand our knowledge by asking the content experts about what is out there around investment safety and security, so that it isn't just, it involves the larger community and draws in those key stakeholders to get their perspective on what might need to happen. So that whatever recommendation goes forward, it's informed by a larger group than just, I just think that sometimes they may have approaches that they might recommend based on their larger groups, larger associations, and I would offer that as a suggestion.
Yep, okay. I know that banks have a process in place where there's any large cash withdrawals, they immediately have to be to the manager,
Yeah.
trying to determine exactly what it's for. I know personally one person that was scammed doing that to the tune of $40,000.
And I guess I envision not just banks, but those who are investment companies, because they have connections and networks as well. To even have the conversation with them would inform us, but also expand. It might add a bit more credibility in taking this forward, should the board decide that they wish to do it.
Yeah, and I think the investment community have a number of checks and balances in place for fraudulent transactions and scams and things like that. I think what's happening here is we'd like to consider, or have council consider, eliminating one of those vehicles where majority of transactions may not be legitimate.
And agreed, and I would encourage, because we've had the experience of hearing that's not within the scope of the municipal council role. We need to be able to present it in a way that acknowledges why it might be considered, to put the frame around it, for our chances of success to be greater.
Would that not fall under business license?
Gaming and law, I don't know. That's a good question.
But I'd like to see Brad.
Yeah.
Burlington, yeah, no, we'll get
Yeah,
that,
we can see.
yeah, for sure.
So if we can put it down.
Because you do need some preamble clause.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Give it some clout.
Okay, so we'll look into Burlington then, if there's any other ones around.
Should it just be brought to the next meeting?
To this, yes, we would. Okay. No.
Reaching out to the other community,
Yeah.
well, maybe they would be able to
Mhm.
participate in a conversation.
We can do some work on it and bring something back for the next board meeting. Look at some of our stats and things like that too, just to give you some background.
All right, sorry to interrupt.
No, no problem. I was gonna say also that, I mean, I don't have the stats. Anecdotally, I would say that it's a way, it's starting to replace the gift card fraud because there was education provided to the box style stores that if you see someone coming in and trying to buy $5,000 worth of gift cards, it's, you know, your awareness should be up, and I would say that's probably started to take hold. They're transferring or come up with a better method or a different method.
Yeah.
And this would be one of those methods. Yeah.
Okay.
So just food for thought.
Okay.
Returning to the report, there's a couple updates on our homicide investigations. The most noteworthy would be that the charge of the 3 offenders in the Raman homicide, they were brought back to Canada on December 11th, and they remain in custody.
Can I just add something? There was an art, and for those on the board who may have seen it, it was in the media that there were critical of the Owen Sound Police Service and the disclosure issues. I contacted the local Crown attorney. He got back in touch with me and assured me that there were no issues on OSPS regarding any disclosure. The volume of disclosure and the release of the disclosure by the Crown's offices would take some time, but there were no issues as far as a lack of disclosure or any concerns on the part of the head Crown in that case.
That's the case we told you about that just has massive volumes of digital evidence. So there was, I believe it was 70 terabytes delivered as part of disclosure around a month ago by our staff. So our end of it is done, but there's obviously a lot of processing to be done at the Crown's office before they get it out. So that's what part of the issue is.
Okay, moving on to the mental health crisis response team. Those members handled 4 referrals from our uniformed members. There were 3 community support consultations, and they responded to 20 incidents involving persons in mental health crisis. Year-end drug overdose information. We finished the year with 4 overdose deaths that we investigated, which is, I just see by the numbers, they're notably down from previous years. We don't have any missing persons at the current time. The bail compliance and warrant apprehension unit executed 11 arrest warrants during December, and they conducted 6 compliance checks on sex offenders residing in the community. So made a few charges for administrative criminal offenses such as failing to attend preference. One of the things the bail compliance unit has undertaken is they're going to have a review of some less serious and older warrants that are currently residing in our system. There's some warrants dating back to the 1990s. They said less serious offenses, so they're going to arrange a consult with the Crown attorney and see what they can do with having those warrants dealt with or removed. And the provincial bail compliance dashboard is up and running. We went live with our bail compliance officer on January 22nd. It's a situational awareness tool to provide users with real-time spatial information regarding persons who are currently on release on bail for firearms related offenses. So it's just a higher degree of scrutiny and oversight for those on bail. So our members trained up and they started. The community oriented response and enforcement unit, or unit, did a series of mobile patrols and community engagement activities in December, and provided assistance with crime to inform members during investigations. The auxiliary unit report. In December, they contributed through ride-alongs a total of 105 volunteer hours, as well as an additional 38.5 hours in running the annual food drive. The statistics for the food drive are there. They raised a total of $6,009 in cash, as well as 1,424 pounds of food in December, which is, as you all know, is a key time. Frontline patrol and collisions. Statistics are there. They're fairly consistent year over year, with a small increase year over year for Highway Traffic Act and a slight decrease in criminal code, though still high. And foot patrol was quite consistent. For ride program activity in December, there was 10 ride programs conducted by officers in December. There was a total of 270 drivers checked. No, there was 162 roadside breath tests administered, which seems like a high number, but one of those five stats was a mandatory screening, so they a certain criteria and then a roadside test with every driver that ran criteria. So that's why that number was a little higher for December. And there were three persons charged with impaired driving in December. Collision statistics are remarkably consistent month over month and year over year. I did add in a section of some we received the year-end collision reports. There's some interesting data there from the totality of collisions for 2005. Some of the highlights I put in bullets there that Thursday was the most common day for collisions. February was the most collisions for the month. The 11 to noon hour was the most common time for collisions, followed closely by 3 to 4 p.m. The three most common intersections are listed there. 10th and 9th elevated itself this year beyond the other two, which seem to be always the two most common collision sites. There were 14 collisions with pedestrians and 7 with cyclists, 10 collisions in which alcohol was a factor, and there were 0 fatalities in 2025. The annual collision report was provided to the city as well. Community service board report. Lots of online social media activity for leading fraud awareness, as we discussed earlier, in response to some of those frauds that we received. Lots of presentations conducted in community engagement, including presentations at St. Mary's High School, Hillcrest School, Alexander School, as well as one for the Alzheimer's Society. Training. We finished the mental health crisis response training with the final group. Most of that training was done in November, but there was last group went in December, so we finished that off. One of our sergeants went to the domestic violence investigator course at OPC. And our 3 new constables, as well as 2 members from Hanover and a new member from West Grey, completed their C8 onboarding training 3-day program. Finally, the service had its annual 2-day sergeants training program, which highlighted several areas of interest for sergeants, supervisors, including instruction on the CSPA, digital rosters, a Crown Attorney recharge screening program presentation, as well as some other items from sergeants. And finally, our senior leadership team held a 2-day training session in December with training focused on decision-making, leadership development, communication, team building, and accountability.
Thank you.
Can I just add, so just for clarification, the bail compliance and warrant apprehension, the tool, the dashboard that we have, that's a provincial rollout that we've been working on, and there's been quite a bit of work behind the scenes with IT and getting everything up to date. So we were able to implement that. So the rollout of that is fairly significant. It starts with firearms, but it's going to be expanded. And basically, if somebody gets released from another jurisdiction to your area, or if they get released and then they go and they change their location to your area, sometimes the notification doesn't actually come through that somebody's living in the area and they're on terms of release for a firearms offense. So this is a visual display you can turn on while you're driving, and it actually tells you that this person lives at this address and they're on a release form within your jurisdiction. So it's a really good tool that is coming in, and it's going to be expanded beyond just firearm offenses. So just to highlight that a little bit more. And then the other thing, the opioid toxicity deaths, they are down significantly, but we also received the Grey Bruce public health stats, and they are down across all of Grey Bruce. But 80% of those are in Owen Sound or across Grey and Bruce. Was it just over 80%, Dave?
Yeah.
It was over 80% that of the issues and the concerns are taking place within the small community, the small geographic area of Owen Sound, because of the concentration of services and resources here within the city. So
We've all but one of the fatalities here as well.
yeah.
If I can just, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian.
I just wanted to ask about the accidents that are year after year after year, the same section, Fourth Avenue, 16th Street and 9th Avenue, and now it's 10th Street too. Do we have reports or data showing why these accidents happen when there's traffic lights?
Yeah, so each of the reports go through and it tells you, you know, what the cause of the accident was, whether somebody was driving properly, whether somebody made an illegal turn. All that data is captured within the reports. Generally, it's driver error when somebody, it usually relates to it, it's turn related. But those are the two most frequent. But we don't actually break it down and say, you know, where, you know, what each, we don't look at each individual accident so much as we look at the aggregate data.
So this is just my personal thoughts, but what about running lights? Is there anything there that's showing people running lights?
If they failed to stop for a light or they ran the light, then that would indicate that they disobey a signal, and that gets captured on the report as well. But I don't see that as a significant issue as much as it is driver error and trying to make a turn when it's not safe to do so, but that could be captured. That would be captured.
Well, that's what I wanted to know, but if you say there's nothing significant, then that's what I was looking for.
I guess the most important thing with that data and the reason it gets sent to the city and doesn't, historically, nothing's really happened with it, but that would be your indication of how do you engineer a solution to some of the collisions. You know, there's one thing to say enforcement is a solution, but enforcement's not present all the time. There's an engineered solution, and you know, some of the other collision locations and some of the incidents, you know, I'll take for example the pedestrian or the cyclist. Those are, and there's oftentimes engineered solutions that can be looked at and examined as far as, you know, trying to minimize risk, but I've yet to see any engineered solutions implemented.
I just, sorry, there's, I've been in a lot of cities where they have the cameras, the red light cameras. And I just wanted to ask about that because I guess that would be a city thing. They'd have to do it. But to me, there's consistency in the number of accidents at those three intersections, and we're only talking three intersections. I just wonder what the cost would be if we ever looked into something like that and how much it would correct accidents that, you know, seem to be the same high numbers year after year.
Yeah, that's the engineered solutions that I'm talking about. There's other options and ways of dealing with it than just strictly doing enforcement, Dave.
I was just gonna say, I know a couple of years ago, Lara Woodfield did a report for council that was on speed, and I believe it also had red light cameras in there, because we were consulted on some of the issues around it, but I don't know what council's decision was with respect to that. The other thing I would add is, the engineer that was doing most of the traffic stuff retired. It was Chris Webb some time ago, and I haven't heard that he's been replaced as of yet, so there may be a gap there now with the city in terms of what they're doing with that data or collision data.
Not all of these intersections have advanced green, do they? 10th Street and 4th Avenue, East doesn't.
16th and 9th.
Yeah,
And 16th.
10th and 1. does,
10th and 9th does, and 10th and 4th
but
does
4th
not.
and 10th don't. I just wondered if that was part of the issue.
And 16th and 9th, that's the four-way stop.
No, that's the
Oh,
traffic
20.
light at
Or the petrol can, right? Ms. Carol.
Through your chair, the operations committee would be certainly a first step, and Laura has brought information and the reports have been reviewed. It's been interesting. Sometimes there's no real understanding of why. It's not the weather, it's not air, some of the reports, it's undetermined. It just, so we know that there are traffic studies, there's counts, there's a variety of things, and we also know there's a keen interest in moving more towards other options of transportation, including bicycling. I'm wondering, and again, this is where the information goes back and forth, but how do we join together the city and police services around issues really targeted targeted is a bad word to use in police, but you know what I mean. Focus conversations around, traffic. Something like this for sure would be appropriate to bring up through operations committee. And then say, how do we move this forward? Because we're seeing the consistency and, has everything been done? For sure, the city may view, well, that's a policing concern about enforcement. The police services may feel it's an engineered, because we do traffic lights and all of that. And I'm wondering, how do we start bringing people together to work together on a common shared issue that's gone on? It's consistent and we're seeing it. How do we do this? What's the mechanism to start bringing together these conversations?
I guess one of the things that moving forward with anything like that, it has to be a cost benefit analysis. Like, what's the cost opposed to the benefit? I think, as she pointed out, most of the causes is rooted in driver error. Like, if everyone follows the rules, it's pretty easy. The next is it risk mitigation, or what are we mitigating as far as risk goes? So I'm not sure we could come up with a solution by saying, we put a left-hand turn signal on for 4 seconds longer or something like that.
And it's more just having people around the table to talk about it as opposed to trying to come with solutions. Because I think building the bridges for who has part of it, who has part, could be a strength going forward, especially as we move towards new council.
I think there are, we've approached traffic and city about some of our concerns. Traffic data and concerns that other municipalities are doing other engineered solutions like speed humps removable, because they complain about the fact that the snow removal would be a concern. Well, I've been through many municipalities in the province, like many that have removable speed humps placed in there. Many have removable, or they stay in place, dividers or markers that naturally make you slow down. There are many engineered solutions. We've also spoken about getting one of the speed measuring devices. We use our traffic trailer, but and then we provide the information, but that's all fine, but something has to be done with data. There's been no uptake on movable speed bumps. There's been no on the lane dividing markers to make people slow down because you think you're going to hit them with your mirror. There's been no movement on a number of questions about the people are flying down my street, and yet you go and sit and do traffic for 2 hours and you don't have nobody that's going more than 7 kilometers over the speed limit. That's an engineered solution. That's why we put out our traffic trailer. We don't put the traffic trailer out. It's a community safety, it's a crime prevention, it's from our point of view, but the data from that isn't for us. The data for that is for the city.
Yeah.
But you have to do something for that.
And I think from what I'm hearing, and the short time I've been on this board, there's a ping pong effect. Whose issue really is it? And it gets, I'm not saying whose issue it should be, but I see how do we move towards shared communication and follow things through. That's just been my take on what I've heard, but I think certainly bringing it forward in operations. Marion, what do you think?
Well, normally the police would provide that report to the city. And years ago, there used to be a committee that was more focused on traffic and transit, and they would look after it. Now it all goes to in the big lump of operations, and it's whether somebody picks it out to do something about it.
Gotcha.
My suggestion might be that when we have our 2 meetings with the city a year, that traffic be one of the topics. And that attention's brought to these intersections, and even though it's driver error, is there something mechanically or whatever that can be done about it? That would bring more focus to it, I think.
even driver error, you look at it and you know, examine whether or not there needs to be a screen signal. Or there needs to be an advanced or a delayed green,
Mhm.
or whatever that may look like, there's options that can help avoid. If you see consistently that there's people trying to get through the intersection, making a left turn, the example, making a left turn because it's not long enough and everybody's delayed, anxious and waiting, then there's an engineered solution to be able to fix that and extend it or make it work better so that people don't get anxious and try and rush and make a mistake.
And the city has lost its expertise. Years ago, we had Jim Coburn who focused only on traffic lights and intersections and traffic bylaw and so on. And then we had Chris Webb pick that up, and now Chris is gone. So the question to the city is,
Who picks it up now?
yeah, who's picking it up?
And you mentioned cost, like I don't know, how do you, if you're thinking cost, how do you put a price on safety?
Yeah.
Because that's what it is, but we have consistent numbers at those intersections. And that's why I asked about like a red light camera. I don't know if any of you, like, when I drive in Vancouver, I know they have red light, I look for them. It changes the way you're thinking when you're driving, they work. You know, if you're driving in Edmonton, they've got speed cameras, you watch your speed because you know, boom, they'll be nailing you. They work, but.
And I agree with you 100%. And you know, the evidence is there that they work. But that's an engineered solution. It's not an enforcement solution.
Right. Okay, sorry, I probably beat that one to death.
No, that's all right. No, it's good. Good conversation. Right.
I think just a really quick comment.
Yep.
So Inspector Matheson covered quickly the auxiliary, but I just wanted to make a comment on the food bank, food drive this year, because I met with Alice Wannon from Salvation Army, and part of that discussion was this has been one of their worst years in terms of need, new families, and virtually all of their is for the years, any number of different organizations that try to do assistance and support of the food bank, but she commented specifically that in almost all cases, all of those numbers are down for the food gathering, with the exception of our auxiliary, which managed to several record year for the amount of food money that came in. Just extremely appreciative of that, because that was going to help them get through the Christmas season. So they did a great job with it, and
Excellent.
keep it up next year. So
Good stuff.
And my vote be available now.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry.
Good ones.
So did I. So did I. Both be winging it.
yes.
You'll be almost promoted to the next rank. They can go on.
Yeah.
Mike, welcome. Thank you. So we just want to take an opportunity to congratulate you on present the board to recognize that your promotion. I think a couple months ago when you were supposed to be here, I had a bit of biography laid out, and I don't. The 20
Here, 24
here total.
24 years, 27 total.
27 total, so brings lots of experience to his role here, and we're really happy to have Mike recognize him. So, Sergeant, he's working with one of the platoons on the road right now, and so I just want to take the opportunity to introduce you to the board and thank you and appreciate the job you're doing. Congratulations.
All right, thank you, sir. Yeah, no, it's been a good ride. I did quite different things here. I did the drug unit with Craig and did some CIB work and acting sergeant for several years, on and off. It's been interesting. It's gone by really quick.
The next 20 will be more.
It does.
I'll make 20. But yeah, thanks folks, and I'll let you guys go back to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Congrats.
I have no idea. Mike, who?
Fulovaki.
Sure.
How do you spell that?
HOL.
Spelling test.
Right here.
HOL.
Right there.
Thank you.
Is Reach coming? Was it tomorrow?
No, it's Wednesdays, but I don't.
Snow, I got snow.
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay.
I haven't heard of a cancellation yet, so they probably will be here.
All right, moving on to next item. I think we're on to reports from Director Flynn.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh, this really should be Doherty, should it be?
Well, the report comes from Director Flooney and
Okay.
I speak in her behalf.
Okay.
So this update is for courts and records. December, activity increased in several areas. Our bulk record check searches increased 6.2%. Warrants executed increased to 29.1%, and custody transports increased 61.9%. Our special constable hours were up 9.4%, reflecting high courtroom demands. And persons charged decreased by 14.3%. That's consistent with case-specific evidentiary requirements to lay charges. Our year-end trends show modest declines in bulk record searches by minus 6.9%, warrants minus 1.8%, and persons charged minus 2.9%. Changes were linked to reduced submissions from one of our major record check providers and temporary leave affecting warrant execution with the BCWA. We had a member on personal leave at that time. Video appearances declined 28.6% as courts are now returning to in-person processes as more preferred than video. Special constable hours increased 11.8%, and that's driven by multiple in-custody Superior Court matters late in the year. And as you're aware, we have armed security now at the courts, done so from September to December. That resulted in approximately 834 uniform hours providing security. Special constables contributed 17,051 hours in 2025, and this was due to prisoner management, sustained multi-courtroom operations, and numerous in-custody proceedings.
Great. Any questions for Dr. Doherty? Thank you. Moving on to reports from Corporate Services, Susan Matheson.
And Chris Helpman, IT services.
Okay.
So we'll start with an update on the OSPSB Emergency Communications Center. So this past year, we completed a major modernization milestone with our transition to next generation 911. That occurred on November 25th, which has improved caller location accuracy, cybersecurity, resiliency, and future compatibility with text and digital reporting. Year to date, 911 calls increased 5%. No answer calls decreased by 2%, and calls dispatched increased by 3.5%. In December, we dispatched just over 5,000 events, which is on average 163 per day. And that was down 6.6% from November. For 2025, our communication center dispatched a total of 69,877 calls for service with One Sound and our partner agencies. This was a 3% increase over 2024, and our calls for One Sound were 18,974. That number.
Almost 19,000.
And Party 1 call response time performance improved for One Sound with a median response time of 7.1 minutes. Receiving the call to officers arriving on the scene. And then just a quick update for information technology. 2025 was a transformative year, highlighted by the successful implementation of NG911. IT also completed major Microsoft 365 rollouts, cybersecurity reviews, engineering support for our 11 partner communication centers, and they continued development work for the new West Grey Police facility that's soon to open, while continuing to prepare emergency technology initiatives for 2026.
Any questions for, yes?
Just for clarification, I want to be sure that I heard this right. So over $19,000 or 19,000 calls, Did you say 18,000 of those were primarily for Owen Sound?
So there was almost 70,000 calls for service in total at our communication center.
Okay, yeah,
So that's not just for ourselves, that's for the partner agencies,
Yeah.
Hanover, West Grades, Southern Shores, Coburg,
Yeah.
and Port Hope.
Yep.
So that call volume in total was almost 70,000 that we processed.
and of
And
that,
of that, ours was close to 19,000 from Sound City.
thank you.
Just a hair under.
Just under.
18, 9 or something.
Yeah.
974.
Owen Sound.
And that's annual?
Yes, for 2025.
Thank you, that helps.
So just to put that in perspective, so if we only dispatch for Owen Sound Police and Fire, we did 19,000. The reason we brought in dispatch to provide service to others was to take advantage of the capacity. So we've got, what, 50,000 calls that we're earning money on that we never wouldn't necessarily have done if we didn't have a dispatch service. And we use the same number of people for the 19,000 as we do for the 70,000.
You would need to use the same.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Chief, do you have a target time, a target number for response times? So if we're on average 7.1 minutes, like, is it, do you always shoot for between 6 and 8 minutes, or what's that?
So we've just started being able to get some of that information because of the NG9 upgrade. We didn't actually, it was really difficult to get out of the former system, the exact time to location. Yes, we have some, and it varies by priority as far as what the response time should be. But 7.1 minutes by the time you actually, enter the information and enter the information, process the call, and send it to the officer, and then drive there. 7 minutes isn't that bad, and if I can tell you that the average, that's the average, but there are some that are much quicker than that too. So ideally, we'll track that and see where we go and see what direction it's going, and some of that is how many people are available and how many people are working. They have to clear another call to get to that call. It takes time to do that. If they're available and they can get dispatched right away, it certainly speeds up the process. So we're gonna have to look at the data as we can start to add more now that we get more better information coming out of the system, and work with that and try and get it down.
So if you were over 8 minutes, you'd probably look into it and find out why, or
I guess not. I guess we haven't really received any complaints about the response times. It was more internal as far as what I'd like to see, and certainly if it starts increasing, that's a problem. We need to go, and we would like to get it driven down. I'd like between 5 and 6 minutes, but right, depends where staffing levels are. You have to remember, we also haven't had the availability of any of our part-time officers to assist since August of last year. So our resources and our staffing levels, and the fact that we still have, right now, we still have 7 in training of our members that aren't working independently on their own yet, but they've been here. Those are all things that affect us. The response time, staffing level needs to be, like, we need to get those people trained and in, and we need to increase our complement as we've explained in the presentations on budget, that extra bodies and resources, because those 19,000 calls are being handled by the same number of people who are handling 14,000 calls 10 years ago. That's and like I said, now we don't have our part-time officers, and we also have a real shortage. Over the summer, we were down lower than that as far as available resources and officers. So if we can get the bodies back, I think you'll see that improve.
but if you're not getting complaints, I think that speaks for itself, because if you're at the other end of it, if you're waiting on someone to come, it always seems like a lifetime before anybody gets there.
The priority calls are the ones that an officer will, despite the fact they may be busy and they may have to go back, they'll clear to make sure that they can get there to deal with somebody who needs a priority response. And it's a bit of juggling and keeping balls in the air, because it might not be done to the point that you need to be, but you have to go and follow the situation over here. So
yeah,
that's it, and that's difficult, because a lot of times then you're having to go back to that original call in the first place, deal with the person who finished that call. Because now you've cleared up that one to the point where you can clear it, so it's not ideal.
Are you capturing the calls for ambulance and fire as well? Response times?
We don't calculate their response time. We could calculate response times for fire, because they, they're dispatched by us. Ambulance gets downloaded to somebody else, so they look after their own response times. But I know that they were just over 1,000 calls for fire, and that's all their calls. That's not fire calls. That's traffic accident and everything. They had 1,000 calls, and just over 1,000 calls for the year. And the same number of resources as we do with 19,000 calls.
Further to that, because that statistical information I think would be really, really helpful for council to know, but you dispatch for fire locally. So you would have the ability to at least provide that. Do we get that information anywhere in our city? That's a question. But it would be really helpful if we look at the umbrella of community safety around our responses from our funded agencies locally. It might be an interesting information piece, not only the ratio of the percentage, but also just to get an idea of the perspective. Because I'm thinking back, and I'm not sure at council
I
we've
don't
ever
think
seen.
this council has ever received it, but other councils have, when we've been on before.
We used to have a committee. For fire in these two worlds.
Yeah, it would be interesting, and I'm not, I think it's something as a comparator, because you're providing that dispatch service, right? So you would have accurate data.
So that's under corporate services now, so whether they have a report come or not.
It would be interesting to ask the question. Yeah, I have a question about business models. The dispatch is a business model that the police services does. City also has business models that they do where they contract services out to other municipalities. My understanding is police services has their business model, negotiates their own contracts with other organizations, and that police services sets the costing and the expectations, which may be different than the business modeling that the city does. Because sometimes, the business model, as we all know, has been questioned in the past. You've clearly indicated the advantages of the business model. But Owen Sound Police Services has the independence to set their own fees, expectations, and to negotiate the contracts independently, correct? Yeah, and that is a clear delineation between business modeling at the city and responsibility.
I think a business model
Yeah,
can take many shapes and forms
Yes.
in different organizations, whether it's here, the city, or,
Yeah.
manufacturing. I think you still have to have a business model.
Yeah.
And our business model is, we own it. Craig owns it, he runs it, negotiates the salaries, everything else.
yeah. And it isn't designed to match what the city is doing. It's
Never.
based on the content expertise and what's out there, and the comparator is inaccurate to even think that you compare how this, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just needed clarification because the city doesn't negotiate. The police services negotiates for this model. Thank you. Helpful, thank you.
Just work. Aren't you doing some work with IOP regards to response times? Really bad.
Still are, actually Mark's gonna join us a little bit later to present, but she had a data collection conference call this morning with IOP on some of the data, and we recently received the first bit of data coming out of IOP for all the work that everybody's put in, and I think I shared it with the chair about the just the overall population they serve, things. There's some standard information there, but that call today is going over the ability for everybody to access the data across the province. It's standardized now for policing. It's difficult because, you know, we asked for just over $9 million for a budget, but then the financial information report says upwards of $14 million to cost for policing. Well, if you compare $14 million compared to somebody else who's asked doesn't include their building costs and rent and debentures from 20 years ago that are still being paid for, all of those things, it's apple to apple comparison. It's a lot easier. You know, I heard the mayor recently on CFOS saying it was $15 million. I don't know where the $15 million comes from, but you know, it's going to be a lot easier for us to look at the IOP information to say every police service fills in this template and provides this response to the questionnaire, and this is the amount that it costs to operate. This is the amount of cost for capital, and it doesn't include all those other things that everybody needs a building. Everybody needs, and you know, it's not fair to add the cost of a building into policing, because I'll say, for example, this next year, or even this year, if you use Saugeen Shores, they have a brand new building. You know, they're paying for it, but it's not getting dumped into their policing costs annually. You know, but their maintenance level isn't what it is here, where we have somebody again fixing the HVAC system every other day. Or you know, staff wearing, like myself last week, wearing my jacket all week because there was no heat in my office. So it's like that's the type of thing that, you know, if you don't have an up-to-date modernized facility, then it doesn't reflect on the overall policing costs the same as it does. And West Gray's gonna have a new facility next year, and so I'm sure their annual maintenance costs are gonna go down. So does that show that their cost of policing has gone down? My answer is no. Like, but it may reflect that it does, depending on how they capture the new facility and how they put that into the books. So it's at least this way, all the information's there. Every police service across the province has to put it in, and we'll have access to it, so we can make an apples to apples comparison, unlike the current method where people process it differently. I've looked at the financial information report, and I have nowhere under policing where I see the revenue, which is unusual for me, but I guess it's because most places it's not a revenue.
It's expense.
It's all expense. So you know, you look at the 14 million, where's the revenue that's brought in as a result to offset that? Or it's not listed. I don't see it listed anywhere.
No.
Through you, Chair, this comes back to some of the challenges. When is a department not really a department? You know, some of the accounting principles that are applied, like facility costs being cost allocation, implies that police services is a department like other departments. And yet the IOP will present a report. There's more standardized approach. And I think if what I've observed is that the accounting principles used are varying. And it doesn't reflect the pure cost of policing community safety. So I see a bit of a disconnect when we start to have cost allocations, whether it's for IT support or whether it's for facility cleaning or whether upgrades.
Payroll support, management support.
Yes, and that then it treats like other departments, which is a philosophy that may be held. But on the flip side, it doesn't give the accurate picture of the true costs of, and so the IOP report would be really, really critical when it comes in and your analysis comes. I think having that shared with council would be absolutely critical.
Yeah, and I have something to talk about later on when we talk about discussions on that and what data collected.
Thank you.
Good. Anyone else?
Just on the response times, I'm actually looking forward to seeing what IOP produces, because I think our response times, see in comparison, are going to be very good. Those response times, when you look at them too, that's the time from when the phone rings to somebody standing on your doorstep. So I think 6 or 7 minutes. That's when you think of all those steps that have to happen, or even just the travel time. You know, now we'll be better because of geography, because we're quite compressed than obviously places policing rural areas and that sort of thing. But I think those are pretty good times, actually.
Okay, good. Moving on to report from manager HR.
So just a quick update on lost hours. So this past month saw a 70.9% increase in sick leave. Clearly attributed to seasonal illnesses that were experienced by members. Year over year, sick leave hours only rose 1.4%, despite having several members often extended medical leaves of absence. Our WSIB related lost hours decreased 77.5% in 2025 and were 0 in December, which is a significant.
Okay, good. I think at the beginning of the meeting, when we talked about the agenda, we also were going to insert the report on building and facilities right here. We had an email discussed with the city, and Craig, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, we missed.
Yeah, just one more report.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just resources, sir. So you'll see in the board report, I put Wendy and I put together a summary on the 34 Forward initiative, and just briefly, this is a national Canadian movement designed to strengthen the recruitment, retention, and advancement of women in policing. It's inspired by the Global 3030 initiative, which aims to reach 30% women in police recruit classes by 2030. But the 3040 extends beyond this time frame to create long-term, culturally embedded change across Canadian police services. So we signed the 34 pledge in November and are committed to improving recruitment, retention, and advancement of women in policing. Just some Owen Sound specific stats. Women currently make up 24% of our sworn officers, with 40% in 2025 for recruits and 10%. And this is all being done with only 10% of our applicants being female applicants. So it is quite a challenge when you're dealing with a reduced pool of applicants and to secure professional, competent people that reflect the community that we serve. So we're working on initiatives that are going to support the 34 pledge into the upcoming. And just a quick overview on staffing in December. Hired a recruit constable, switchboard operator, and part-time cell block monitor, and we had 2 part-time resignations. For 2025, we had hired a total of 35 new people, and that was across the service and dispatch, cell block, constables, special constables, and auxiliary. And as well, we had 2 leadership roles, promotion to inspector, and a new inspector hiring. Lastly, there were just some legislative changes that came up for 2026. I highlighted them in the report related to public job postings and certain requirements that every employer must adhere to. Certain things such as restrictions on requiring Canadian work experience. This has never been a requirement in our postings, so it doesn't apply to us. Mandatory disclosure of AI use. We don't use AI currently in our recruitment process. Including pay transparency and postings, we always put the pay range for the roles that we're looking to hire for, so we're in compliance with that. Notify candidates within 45 days of the outcome of the process. Comply with that. We're well within that range. Increase recruitment retention records from 1 to 3 years. So this is something that just came in and we'll adopt to that. And there were some new OHSA requirements for washroom cleaning logs. So they want every employer to post on each bathroom door when the last 2 cleanings were, or to provide this information electronically to staff. So we've opted to do it electronically to staff. Our buildings are cleaned on a daily basis, our washrooms are cleaned on a daily basis, and we'll just advise staff if they got any issues, just to let us know. We'll take care of that. So those updates.
Can I add one thing on the last time?
Mhm.
So lost hours in WSIB, and you'll see a big drop in that. So we're currently not, we currently still have 1 person off on WSIB. they're not receiving any benefits directly from the police service anymore, so that's why it's been dropped and they've been replaced on by the board. You know, the decision to replace that individual, so it's unlikely that they will return. So that's why you see that there's nobody technically that have dropped down, and similarly, when you're paying out to somebody on WSIB, you receive a rebate back from WSIB. So there are questions around that in the budget. I don't know how you budget, a big drop, and you're no longer getting that revenue. Well, you no longer have the revenue, but you no longer have the expense. I'm not really sure how you. There seemed to be disappointment around the fact that the revenue wasn't there anymore. But I see it as a positive thing that nobody's off on WSIB, and other than the one individual, there's no cost to that right now. I will stress that you're in a position that is highly unusual across the province for WSIB and policing, or any first response, because there isn't more WSIB issue. Some services are upwards of 20%, and so I highlighted that the fact is there is still one person, but it's not reflected on there anyway, because there's no cost associated with that individual.
That was actually something that came up at the conference we were at. Other boards
Yeah.
with the WSIB numbers were ridiculous.
Significant.
Yeah, so we're pretty fortunate here.
I think that points out to the difference in the lens that's being used between the dollars and budget figures and the human resource capacity, capability, and the fact that that's something to celebrate. That WSIB is like, there's no one on. That's remarkable. And I think, depending on your lens, but overarchingly, I think it's a positive for the police services that this, and I don't jinx it, okay?
Yes.
I have a little, they call it one of my soapbox comments, but just on the 30 Forward program, I was a little disappointed because you put a media release out. Of course, there's some public comments wanting to comment on it being DEI and everything else. The public session, I just want to say every single female officer that we have working here that we have hired has been hired because they were the top candidate out of that intake that we did. And there's no extra points for being female or anything else. Everybody that's working here, it was the best candidate to bring in. The 30 Forward program is really trying to increase the number of applicants and that sort of thing to encourage it more as a, I just wanted to say that there's no special tool being used to move women. They were the top candidates in our non-gender specific police application process. So, which we've been very lucky to get some excellent candidates, and the ones that we've hired recently have been, they're doing very well. So we just wanted to get on my soapbox and say that. So,
And that's a valid point. There is the expression, you have to see it to be it. And by opening up to all candidates and the initiative to recruit women, by seeing it as part of the larger force, it encourages others to consider it as a career opportunity as well. So, and that applies across the board. Gender is only one part of the whole picture, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's good. All right. Moving on to report on building facilities.
Yeah, so this was just something that I brought to the board chair's attention. I want to add it as a standing item. There may or may not be any written report. It might just be a verbal report. Police been put in charge, and Inspector Doherty's been put in charge of looking after working with the city on building maintenance and building issues. There are a couple of things that passed back. One and so he speak to those more directly, but one of them was that a water fountain somewhere in the building. We've asked for that for 4 years. I don't know of any other public or any other facility by the city that probably doesn't have a water fountain for their staff, but comes down to I know there are at least 3 and had 3 or 4 in City Hall. Maybe we can get one repurposed to come over here, but they've now identified that because it's not forward facing in the public, they're no longer supporting water filling or water fountains unless it's in the public area. So we've been told there is that's a direction that was provided to city staff. Council, they don't, that they're not doing that anymore, so these are the types of things that are, it's the things that we don't want to fall off the table. Like the last we heard was they were gonna look into it, and that was in September 23. I believe it was.
It was towards the completion of the comm center. They came in and had one quote done, and the message was to look into that quote and get it broken down into some different locations, and it was left with facilities and never got a response on it, so it just dropped.
That would have been September of 2023, so that's concerning, and we said, well, we can't put it in a public area, we can put it into the Barclay room downstairs. And that way it's available for anybody that whenever the room's being used, and there's a washroom over there, so the plumbing shouldn't be that big an issue, but nothing's happened since, so we're gonna continue to push, see what we can get, but that's one example of why we need to have this a record of this, because things don't get completed, don't get done, like left, and then I'm busy running a police department, the police, the inspectors, now the deputy are busy running a police department, and so then it's like, oh, whatever happened with the water fountain, because somebody will bring it up and we need something, and then it's like, oh, I guess we'll do a history on it and search our emails and find that in September 2023, it was left that they'd get back to us, and nobody never got back to us, so it's time to start putting things on that list and see about either. If there's gonna be no progress, then we'll discuss that, and if there is, then let's keep it forward, so that was one of the things, the other item on there.
I've got it.
Sorry, yeah.
This is different than a water filling station. This is a fountain, correct?
Either, we have neither one.
So
Right.
essentially what it is, it's just taking city water and chilling it.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's no filters, there's no reverse osmosis or anything like that. The issue with getting one installed is that according to the city's program, it had to be public facing so anyone can use it. The thing is, you need a proper drain for the wastewater to go into, and
If it's a fountain.
so trying to find a location within this building that would accommodate that was quite challenging, because they were considered in the front lobby. Would have involved digging up the floor, putting in a drain, that sort of thing, and I think the original estimate they gave was somewhere around like $25,000 to install just water. It's just city water that you're drinking, that's what you.
But why can't they put a water filling station in the front lot?
So that's what I talked to Brady about, to see some options. If we were to get like a rental unit, depending on the number of people that it's servicing, the cost could be upwards of $5,000 a year just for rental.
But
like,
the
on
city has
water.
a program. To annually put in water bottle filling stations. And this is what I brought up Monday night
You did.
at the Bay Shore,
Yeah.
upstairs for the Bay Shore.
That wasn't,
No, you didn't have one, I'd asked for it too, but they told me it was a slam dunk. It would be about $2,500, $3,000 to put in a water bottle filling station. So I don't know why Brady's saying it's.
You never discussed that option with me. We talked about from a staff perspective, we've got the main floor washrooms that are all gonna be renovated. Hopefully this year, and that if there's some cost savings there might be the opportunity to install a water fountain or cooler within the building that's attached to one of the bathrooms for water access and drainage. He also talked about replacing our fridge downstairs with a water dispensing fridge, so we'd have ice cubes as well as cold water. That the city would probably cover that cost. So those are the only two options that have been presented to me. I wasn't aware of what you just described, Mary.
Well, if that can be brought up to him.
Yes.
I've only got 3 weeks with him left, so I
Yeah.
have to be on with him.
In a hurry.
To see what things I can move forward. And there's a number of other things. I don't know if this is the time or place, but I do have updates on a number of different facilities matters, so.
Well, if
Would you like to-
you do have a chance to talk to him about this.
Yes.
Please do so, and if you don't get anything, let me know and I'll bring it right up to council again.
So the large cost that we got was directly related to the public facing, if we had to put it out in the lobby, because the only location they could put it in had to do with, they'd have to get into the elevator chamber and be drilling and digging and everything else to put a drain in, which anywhere else in our building, as Tony said, we have access to the backs of drains, the wall outside the bathroom and that sort of thing, which would have been much cheaper. It was, the cost that we were getting was driven by the demand that it be in a public facing area, which there's no drain that's easily accessible there.
I might suggest any communication you have to CC Kate Allen so that when Brady leaves, there's a record. I would encourage that. So it's documented, but it's also because it would come forward probably through corporate services as well. Marion brought it
Well,
right up
Yeah,
at council and it could have been added on, but the water, there wasn't much pushback about the water filling station, the additional one. So
There's none.
yeah, so.
That up.
So-
It's just, you call it a disconnect. We're bordering on no connect over here.
exactly.
That's what
Be
it is.
equal.
Yeah.
But I think considering options in the water filling station isn't the ideal, but it's an option to consider.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I also follow up with Brady today on a number of matters, so I'll chat with him about that. And he did mention to me that they don't have a replacement yet for his position, and that Kate Allen would be the contact person. So thank you for that.
So there are other items on that list as well, but you want to cover those off?
Yeah, I can give a quick, just so that everyone has context of where we're at. So obviously, park is an issue here, especially in the winter months with snow removal, that sort of thing. And the city has provided us with, the issue is with 5 temporary parking tags per month. Five, which are accessible down in records. What it means though is you have to park somewhere interimly to go into records to grab the tag, but then drive over to First Avenue and look up on your dashboard. Sometimes staff members forget to return the tag, and so the number gets depleted. So the city staff have their license plate entered into the parking database to exempt them from taking it by bylaw when they're in.
This is all city staff.
All city staff. So I talked to Brady about that and asked him if he would entertain having our staff members have a primary plate number entered into the system. He seemed open to the idea. He said that he would get back to me this week about it. What it involves is that the clerk has to enter manually all these license plate numbers, but once they're in, they're in. And then the only thing that we really need to do is just continue to monitor onboarding new people coming in or offboarding people leaving, which I'm happy to take care of that part of it. So I'm trying to make this very easy for him. And I'm hoping that we can get plate numbers in there so that there isn't a need for parking tags or that sort of thing. People can drive directly to First Avenue, park there straight. So that was the update on the parking. We've discussed the water filling.
Sorry, just to
Sure.
comment on that. Dave might have a date. I know he's friends.
Well, yeah, well, that's Dave. I got this. I'll get it done, Dave.
Been ongoing for probably 5 years to say that this is something that we need. It's not convenient. It's not working the passes, and there's been no progress on that either.
Like, even if we have to loan somebody, or I can even go over there for a period of time and help them input the plates, like, this is not a big,
It's bylaw enforcement.
yeah,
that
it's
puts it in,
very,
And they're
very,
getting
very
more
straightforward.
staff.
Yeah.
Tony's new here, so he's still up. Tony was quite excited. Solution, and I
wasn't excited. I just stated what I
2 years
was
ago
told.
that we were left with, let us look into it, and
Funny, but not fun.
Let's parking, water filling. Brady was aware of the fact that police service board discussed putting together a new facility committee. So he wants to help out before he leaves, and he's going to make efforts to meet with the chief to talk about that in terms of what's involved in that assessment, pre-design study. If that's the case, here's the different things that we need to consider and what we need to follow up on, and what costs are involved in that, and is that a shared cost between the city and the PSB, or is it one or the other? So he's open to having those discussions before he leaves. Just an update on that.
Because he's leaving.
Because he's leaving. Yeah, you think as much as I can get from him before he goes. So just an update on. So I talked to you just a little bit about the remediation plan. So as I said, the current vendor that did the assessment, their estimate for the mold remediation was significantly high, very, very high. So that caused them to look at a couple other local businesses who also perform those same services. And I'll follow up with them this week. We should have an answer. Once that's been solidified, who the vendor is going to be, then we can plan to have the remediation done. It'll be on a weekend, so it's less impact on staff. And as I said, once that's been completed, then we'll be fixing the tiles. But they're gonna buy a surplus of these tiles because until we get the HVAC recommissioning done, we're still gonna have water condensation potentially, so it's in their best interest to do the recommissioning sooner than later, so that there is an additional cost with replacing tiles, sort of thing. So with the recommissioning, they've hired a company called WSP Canada as the consultant, and this company previously performed as a consultant with the city of Guelph. They're going to conduct an off-site and on-site review of the building automation system, the BAS. The completed report is expected in the spring. City will also need to hire an air balancing subcontractor. City will be speaking with John Top as well to get him on board with future servicing of that system. John's very good at what he does. He's been around for a long time, but he focuses on just the issue and not the global part of it. And we need to take everything into consideration. So that's something that they're going to discuss with John. The city has a capital plan to replace the power supply to and within the building. This is in the planning and RFP stage and will not take place until sometime next year. It is a priority for the city to resolve. City had to confirm ownership of the transformer that's out back, whether it was the city's or Hydro's, and they've confirmed it belongs to Hydro. The RFP is to be issued in the next 2 weeks. The engineer and design process will take place this year. Production slated for next year. It's going to take them the better part of a year to order and receive all the required parts. As part of the electrical renovation, the city will be replacing all the lighting within the building to LED once that job is underway.
Just a question. So that transformer that's out at the back, if it goes down, our comm center is down as well, correct?
Do we have backup generator?
We have a backup generator.
Redundancy?
But if it's gonna take a year, do they bring in a portable one transformer or?
If we needed one, they could.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
There are portable generating stations, but they'll take up a significant space in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Set it up. But could it be done? It could be done.
Just while we're talking about the building, does Inspector Matheson have a door in his office yet?
It's invisible. No, we're still waiting for that. We haven't got, that door was supposed to come before year end, and then it was supposed to be on a truck coming the first week of January, and here we go, 3 weeks. So, actually, that was something that I have to follow up with Brady on as well, because we didn't discuss that.
Just add it to the list.
I started the discussions in April or last year.
Yeah, we missed that topic actually when we were chatting, so I'll follow up with him today on that, because all we need is a door here. Once the door is here, it'll only take a day to do the construction and put it up, and another day just to do some final touches, just painting, that sort of thing, so. And I talked briefly about the main floor bathrooms. The city has allocated $100,000 in the budget for this project. Derek met with the contractor who performed a site visit, took measurements. This project is going to be completed through Gordian, which is a job order contracting. This has a list of pre-qualified contractors and an a la carte catalog, which is expected to shorten the procurement process. The Barclay room wash will have to be fitted with a door opener for accessibility and meet building requirements. And we're expecting those bathroom renovation estimates this week. We talked about the flooring throughout the building. Fortunately, right now, there's nothing capital to replace the flooring in the building. This is an issue with all the city buildings, but they will perform repairs on an as-needed basis. So I guess even in City Hall, I think it's 6 years old, and they're considering what to do with that, but they just don't have the funding for it right now. So.
Good. Yes, Carol.
For clarification, this topic will be a standing agenda item. Will we be receiving a chart or overview of all of the projects and then the specifics about in process or completed, or because it's important to have the narrative, but I think to be able to have the graphic or the chart to accurately see would be extremely helpful. And if there's any gaps or opportunities or linkages that are needed to also have that, I would find that quite informative if that's possible.
Yes, we provide an annual report. Oh, Reach is just popping in here.
Yeah. We just take 5 minutes. We'll
Yeah.
do that, okay? back to finish up with Tony's report.
Yes. So yes, we'll be doing our annual reports, and one of them will be an update on our facilities. So I'll be looking at the report that was prepared by Inspector Funny from last year. And I'm looking to do a comprehensive update on that report based on the building assessment that was conducted in 2023 to the things that I've learned since I've been here over the past 4.5 months. And so everything that we're talking about today will be outlined in that report, where we're at and where we're looking to go. And as the chief had mentioned, as we do our monthly reports, I will continue to give you monthly updates on where we're at. Keep these things live and
Yes.
forward.
Okay, great.
Just,
Adrian.
just the matrix that Carol was talking about, even if we could get that quarterly or something.
Okay.
And then the other, there's a few other minor items that I'm not gonna bore you with that I've been taking care of with Derek facilities, but one thing I've been assured is that they have intentions this winter to paint the entire interior of the building. So I've undertaken to get a number of different color options, so like color palettes for the building, and I'm currently doing an impromptu survey with staff members looking for their preferences, and it'll be a majority. We'll go with 3 different colors for the building, so that there's uniformity. If you walk throughout this building, you'll see it's a collage of colors. And we're going to try and modernize the look here with 3 colors. That one will be walls, one will be maybe an accent wall, and the other will be like doors and trims, except for the wood, obviously. So once I've got confirmation on the color palette I'm going to go with, I'll be on Derek. When are we doing this? Let's see some paint rolling. So anyway, I'll be keeping up on these things, and hopefully can share some good news, Dave, about the parking stuff. I'm determined to make this happen. So, that's essentially the update right now, and then I'll continue to update.
Okay, good.
We want that document.
Best of luck, Tony, and wish you all the best.
You're the man.
It's on record now.
I will make a comment that Brady has been good to deal with, and he accomplished be in that role than we have any time in the past with anybody else that's been in that role. Although there still remains a lot to be done, and there's still outstanding issues. Brady, I will, Brady's leaving the city, and it's unfortunate because Brady's actually been a bit of a breath of fresh air, and he can't do everything. So I'll put that on the record.
So who will be looking after that after he's gone?
Kate, for the time being, that's what I understand. The run-up process for his position.
They've had a lack of resources recently too. One of the main guys that's been coming over here has got a very serious illness, so they're down to 1 guy. So we
Well, they
appreciate
hired
that as well.
Yeah, they did hire a 6-month contractor to come in and fill that void for them. Apparently that staff member is doing better, and it's expected that he's going to be able to make a return to work. Mission day yet.
Right, moving on to financial updates, John.
So been working a lot on the budget, what's spent from last year, so it's not going to change it in December. So I don't have an update. We're waiting for the final numbers to come over from the city, and we've been putting through invoices, so have that next month, and be able to update on that. And this year just started, so until I get information from the city.
Really about 2.
Did we get a printout of any of the reserve accounts or what's in the reserves?
There's no, I mean, other than the board account, there are no reserves for anything that I'm aware of for police.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that there are any other reserves other than the in and out that we get annually, and go collect revenue during the year, and then we are raised back to the end of the year.
So do we have our year end done? Do we have a year end done, and did we have a surplus or not?
I'm expecting to be over funded. I haven't seen anything since.
And that's done by the city.
Wait until we get the information back. Kate at the city. So everything that we do goes through the city. As far as my activities report, took some time off Christmas and New Year's, a couple of days of senior leadership training, sergeant's training. Did some interviewing with Georgian College policing students, and some recruiting diverse talent webinar. And spent quite a bit of time doing hiring and interviews and board negotiations, things like that, and attended the Optic AGM in Toronto one day. And a lot of time probably underestimated there doing budget preparation. So that would be the highlight of the month. Moving on then, the public complaints annual report.
Yeah, I can cover that off. So as we move into the new year, spread over the next couple of board meetings, you're going to start to see what we traditionally report on annually for you. One of those ones that you do receive every year is a report on last year's public complaint stat. So as you can see, for 2025, total of 15 complaints were received from the Law Enforcement Complaints Agency, who deals with all of the conduct of complaints against police officers in the province. Compares to 11 that we received in 2024. Of those 15, 14 were from separate complainants, so one complainant complained twice. 9 were initially screened out, which means somebody complained to the Enforcement Commission, and for whatever reason, most often this is not in the public interest to investigate. So it's a complaint, just get an investigation done accepting the complaint. 7 were screened out for interest. 1 was screened out because of legislative guideline, another was screened out for interest. 6, all but 1 was impacted what's on free service for investigation. 3 of those complaints investigated determined to be unsubstantiated, which means there's not grounds to substantiate that it actually occurred. 1 other complaint was withdrawn from the complainant and closed prior to the investigation report being completed. And of the remaining 2, 1 remains under investigation by us at the end of the year. We anticipate that one will be closed very soon. Final complaint was just received on the second last day of the year, and like is referred to another service for investigation. So that's where we sat with the agency. Any questions? I've got one other here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Special Investigations Unit annual report. Again, that's one that we report yearly. Special Investigations Unit is called in to investigate any time that their mandate is met, which relates to serious injury to an individual, which could be a broken bone, or things like that, or allegations of sexual assault. So they require mandatory notification to the Special Investigations Unit. So we only had 2 incidents. I've summarized them in the report because they've been reported earlier on in the year because they were both early in the year. So I believe back around June or so, both of these were brought to your attention already. So they are just repeated for the annual report. So I won't go into them in detail because you've heard them already. So we have not had any beyond those 2. Yeah.
All right. Moving on to fee bylaw. Oh, wait. Did you have the fee bylaw?
No.
Yeah. Okay. That's probably a good thing. Fee bylaw goes back to a discussion we had earlier about the broad sector police checks, background checks. There was some changes within the policy, the bylaw that we had. I've got to update it with Dave. We've got to update the fee schedule. So we'll definitely come back to our next meeting where we'll get a motion and hopefully do first and second reading of the bylaw at our February meeting. All right, moving on to MHA wait times.
So I can touch on that, or Mark can, it's Mark's report, but
Oh,
whichever, or Tony, or. That. Okay, silencing it means it'll be me then.
I'm looking for it.
everybody's looking at the floor. Yeah.
So, Mark captured some of those stats and, for mental health and wait times. And, in addition, an enhancement of our mental health crisis response team certainly helps on that, and the number of apprehensions and whether or not we apprehend and take people to hospital in the first place is affected by that. And, we hired one of the mental health workers, so they've been short-staffed, but they're supposed to be introducing a new one any day now. To take that position, but really, we track how long people are at the hospital. Anytime it's over 2 hours, we correspond back and forth with Bright Shores. They've been really good about this. They've been looking into the causes and making sure that there's nothing systemic that's causing that, and that you know, if there's been an excessive delay, there's a reason for that. Probably some of the highlights are 140 mental health apprehensions, 11.7 per month. It's declined 13% compared to 2024. I think some of that, I don't think our mental health calls for service have gone down, but I think our officers working with the mobile crisis response team, getting more comfortable and being able to formulate, you know, the proper course of action. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to the hospital, but the best course of action for the individual. We are apprehending less people. And you can see it's gone down from 161 and 158 the two previous years. Our average wait time was 1 hour and 41 minutes, and in 2024 it was 1 hour 42 minutes. So it really hasn't changed a whole lot in the hospital. And I will say that one thing is that there were some very long ones in the past, and in 2023 it was at 2 hours and 7 minutes, so it has gone down. I don't think we have as many outliers. We probably have more time generally speaking, but we have some transitions that can take minutes, and then we have some that are over 2 hours. There's that. The average is 19 hours and 43 minutes of wait time for the flu each month at the hospital, and up to 22 hours and 31 minutes, down from 27 hours and 46 minutes. So there is progress being made here. And I think that goes to the cooperation that we've had with the new management team at Bright Shores, and the fact meetings with them, and we discuss it, and every time that they do a debrief and check. It is positive. Certainly I'd like to see it get lower, and but you know, I imagine if we talk to them, their overall number of visits to the emergency room have gone up every year as well, and so just to maintain the same is probably a significant step. So that's a highlight of the group.
Yes, Carol.
Does the board ever send letters of appreciation or acknowledgement? This is a great example of strategic partnership and collaboration between two organizations that, in fact, has an impact on our community. I mean, it's a great example of working together and what we achieved. Is there any consideration for the board to send a letter of appreciation to Bright Shores for what they are doing in that, you know, and what has been accomplished as a result of the regular communication?
Chief has been doing that.
It hasn't come from the board, it's come from myself, and myself and Inspector Doherty go and meet with them regularly, and we forwarded this report to them and highlighted the fact that, you know what, it's gone down. It's a minute, but it's gone down, and you know, despite all the efforts of everybody and the cooperation that they've had, and you know, the previous administration there, I didn't even get the time of day. So this time it's a much more productive. So we have passed that along from the service.
And that's great. I just wondered, because we're receiving this information, and whether there would be an advantage to that letter of appreciation on behalf of the board, but maybe it's not necessary.
Yeah, I think that the chief and the hospital work closer together, and
Together with
means more coming from the
them,
chief.
Yeah.
That's where we're really
it definitely
twice removed.
coming from the chief, yes. Just ask.
All right. Right. I guess the next item is budget 2026. And I just wanted to touch on this briefly. as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, and Chief Ambrose did the presentation of the board on January 16th. His presentation I've included in the board package today for a number of reasons. Slides 3 and 4 give an excellent synopsis of the challenges facing the service and why the budget came out the way it did. You'll also find in the package a copy of Carol's motion requesting the city council support the Owen Sound Police Services budget request of 7.23%. And we wanted that to incorporate within the Strong Mayor's budget to ensure adequacy and effective policing for community safety in the area and the citizens as well. As you know, Carol's proposed amendment was defeated. There was also a couple of other comments that were made at the end of the meeting, which I'm not sure were factual. One of the comments was that Owen Sound Police Service per capita is the highest in Ontario. I could not find any vetted data to support that claim. I would note also that the OSPSB, together with the AMO, PAO, and the OACP, is in the process of forming a joint working group to explore costs per capita more formally. The intent is to look at consistent methods of reporting costs and better ways to understand and explain the cost of policing, including how it can be communicated to boards, councils, and the public. So there is work being done on it. Also, the ministry staff have also expressed an interest in being involved to assist with this work. And I have an OSPSB meeting in February, and we're supposed to be a report at that meeting to talk more about it. And I think, so there's something coming up with IOP as well, being looked at that. So there's consistent modeling of what A and B means to come up with Z. And I think that's the problem right now. It's all over the map. So one person said it's, $400, another is $600. Who's right, and is it somewhere in the middle? So I think this new group in the formation will be able to come up with a better price. Another comment that was made at the end of the meeting was comparison of OPP costs in Orangeville to the Owen Sound Police Service. I've spoken to a number of people in the industry regarding this comparison, and they unequivocally said that it's a comparison. Orangeville is not a good comparator with Owen Sound. Orangeville is considered a bedroom community where its population decreases during the day, whereas Owen Sound population increases during the day as a result of being a hub for Grey County and with a market area extending well beyond the city limits. I just wanted to clarify some of that and let you know where some of the other studies are going with respect to cost of policing. Moving on to item E. Go ahead.
One other thing that came up at the end, there was a reference to a 2016 or 2017 costing proposal from and a study that was done by a consultant back at the time. When I arrived in 2019, I looked at the study and they were still involved somewhat. I met them on one occasion. I don't know that it was the best report in 2016 or 17. Estimating costs of policing out beyond a couple of years is probably not a
Dreaming in Technicolor?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody 10 years ago dreamt the fact that there wasn't going to be a time where there are 200 applicants for every policing job, and now we like to get 20 applicants for a policing job. The salaries have changed dramatically since then because nobody wants to work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. Nobody wants to have a cell phone stuck in their face on a regular basis. So the salaries are completely unrelated to what would have been predicted back in 2017. Yet there's cost comparisons to something that was estimated 10 years out. I don't think anybody would have expected a 20+% increase to OPP costings in one given year. And to look at something that in 2016 or 2017 when it was written, probably 2017 was accurate, 2018 maybe, 2019 was a wild guess, 19,
And then it was COVID.
2020, and then 2 years of COVID. I mean, I wouldn't even suggest the documents worth the paper it's written on to be quoting and trying to compare and tell you that you should, you're higher than what you predicted. I would expect that you're gonna find that everywhere across the province, that nobody predicted the 20% increase in policing costs.
Mhm.
Nobody predicted the type of results at collective agreements that have been experienced across policing and fire in the sector. So to go to a 10-year-old report and say, you're out of whack and you're over budget, I think it's narrow sighted that it should have probably, granted, it is accurate, but we are over, but barely. And I'd highlight the fact that on page 75 of the agenda, it talks about the operating increases over the years. From 2019 with a 5.75% increase, then goes 1.76, 2.69, 2.15, 2.06. Those are all less than what the actual cost increases would have been throughout those years. That's offset by revenue. And then you start getting into a 5.22, a 5.0%, and then this year, there are many municipalities that are facing much higher increases, and there's a catch-up type of budget that's gone in, that they've experienced a double-digit increase in order to reflect that. And that unfortunately is the reality of policing, and I don't think that comparison to a 10-year document is an accurate reflection of what has happened in policing over those 10 years.
And as well, the issues have changed in those 10 years.
Oh, totally.
Completely. I was hazarding to guess, say in 2016, homelessness, addictions and mental health, although all, homelessness was maybe on the radar, addictions were on the radar, but not what they are now. And mental health certainly has increased, and there was a pandemic in there that affected everybody across the world. So there's a lot of things that have changed, and the complexities of policing is one of those.
Including the CSVA. Yes, Carol.
So one of the patterns that I've observed is, first of all, there's not here, but let's argue the data. So there's always that, whose data is more realistic, reality-based or accurate. And that is that push-pull that we can see. As we start to move forward to support the case for the financial requests, the comparators are also a push-pull. So the data of incidents, but it's the comparators are a push-pull. We keep hearing comparing to different places. Do we have a checklist of filters that are used to when people say we should be like this community, because there are unique elements in Owen Sound. We could probably all rhyme them off as we sit around this table, but is there a filter chart where when those comparators are made, that we can reference as a quick reference tool to say, we are a regional center for mental health. We have, and I could go on, I don't want to name them all, but for all of us around the table to have that quick reference tool when those comparators are brought up, I think would be extremely helpful. One is not like the other. And this is why. It's not an excuse, it's a reason. And we need to have that substantive information on what makes policing in Owen Sound different than police, for example, you mentioned Orangeville. And we need that reference tool so that we can represent any conversation, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's around committee tables, whether it's around council tables, whether it's responding to emails. I would find that very, very helpful to be able to start to have not just the data, but the elements behind the data that support the uniqueness of what's being offered here, because there are unique elements here. You named the volume per day. I mean, that is a fact. You police for a mobile population as well as a consistent homeowner, business population, and we need, not all communities do that. That's my request as a member of the board, for me to be able to support in any forum I'm at, the justification for why we collectively are making these requests.
I think one of the challenges with that is, how many comparators do you have? Do you have 10 comparators? And how do you get agreement with your audience that those are the 10 comparators. Because what happens is I get into discussions and they'll say, well, what about this one? Well, that's not on my list. And I don't think all of the comparators, all of the components of that one fit with these comparators. But that's the one they focused on, and that's the one.
For sure.
So it's
Sure.
getting an agreement on what those 10, 12, 15 comparators are. It's a challenge.
Yeah, but even to start with some reference tool would be helpful. How we prioritize that or utilize that might be helpful, but I would look to the statistical experts to be able to, because I don't have that, but I know what's been discussed.
I think that is available. If you look back on this slide on the total crime rate, we're the highest in the country.
Like the presentation gives a lot of that data.
We're the highest on this in the province for sure. And crime rate is crime rate, and it's everything under 120,000. So we're.
And CSI, what I was going to add, I know as a police service board, you were tasked with filling out a data questionnaire for the new IOP. We as a police service were as well for the second year in a row. Just before this meeting, I was sitting in on a demo of their new dashboard. So they're putting all of the information they collect from the boards and the service and putting it into a electronic viewable dashboard system that will be accessible to not to the public right away, but to everybody, including the board. We had a peek at it this morning, and the budget information was a hot topic because of the timing of everything. And everyone there was talking about the uniqueness of their police service and the factors that need to be considered when comparing. Like there was someone there from Niagara who said the volume of tourists that come into their area, that like over 3 million over the course of the summer months. So we did recommend highly that the IOP include some kind of influencing factors like that, because you know, there's students in Waterloo, there's, you know, 30, 40,000 students. Every community is unique and it creates different pressures.
And that's great. Thank you.
Right, you hit something.
I get your point with filters, but if you have filters, it's just for your own use, because if someone wants to say something, they say whatever they want. Like the mayor went on the radio last week and said our budget is $15 million. That's inaccurate. He knows it's inaccurate, but he said it anyway. He also said, we know the money is there. They just have to find it. Where is the money, chief? Because you're doing the budget. Has Kate Allen ever sat down with you and said, you've got money here, here, and here that you're not using? Is there mystery money that's missing? Why would he say that?
You have to ask him that.
Well, I think that was there was a letter that came back with the budget request that we went over and we sat down and went over and reviewed, and you know, and then it was clear that they weren't telling us line by line where to save money, but it was. That's the way I interpreted the letter that we received, and as an example, there was a loss of $160,000 in WSIB. Well, and you know, generally every other year you've had that. Well, yes, every other year we've had somebody off on WSIB. I'm not budgeting for hoping that somebody goes off on WSIB. Like that's just not a good budgeting. Well, it's not. I mean, I care more about our members' wellness than I do about making sure that the budget balances and saying, okay, well, let's hope that there's $160,000 in WSIB recovery. Like that's so the general accounting principles is where they're saying there's money there, but I mean. I look at it, I guess, from a different lens. I look at it from this is what I actually expect is going to happen this year. Not historically this has happened, and you know, hopefully maybe somebody gets hurt and injured and off like that. I don't see that as a realistic way of living it. I think it's very difficult to come up with a list of comparators because every community is different. Every community has its own needs, and as Mark said, Niagara produces 3 million more people in the summertime or throughout the year for visitors. What's important to look at is the stuff that you can compare, and that's the crime rate, and you know, total crime rate, and we're the highest of all populations. So every municipal police service serving a population of under 120,000 people, and you know that is a direct comparator. You know, looking at our calls for service and our officers and our workload, you know, the number of criminal cases that they carry, that is a direct comparator. I don't. it's too difficult to say, well, your data's flawed because, you know, you're the same size as Strathroy. And so, but half their community is rural and the fields don't count for calls for service. You know, that's the truth and the reality of it, but, you know, this is where we have to look at the stuff that you can compare and the crime severity index and, you know, the fact, and I'll highlight the efficiency of the police service when you look at the clearance rates. Those are the things that you should say, well, it's not like we're just sitting around not doing anything, because our clearance rates are high as well. So we've been very effective with what we're doing. What it comes down to is that, you know, that where do we, you know, when we're discussing budget, okay, there's $160,000 roughly of the difference between 5.5% the city provided and the 7.23, and I'll remind everybody at the table, we started out at 8.5. The city presentation to the council said we started out at 7.8. That's not where we started out. I was somewhat disappointed because it started at 8.5. We ended up coming back at 7.8, but the original ask and the original estimate was 8.5. So it looks as though, oh, you came down less than 0.6. You came down 0.5%. No, we've come down over 1%, from 8.5 down to 7.23. But that wasn't reflected anywhere in that presentation. So it's one of those things, if you ask me, where can you cut the $160,000? I don't know the answer to that. If we want to go in that direction, then we'll have to have a meeting and we'll have to go through line by line, and the board's gonna have to decide where you want to come up with the difference between the two.
Well, sorry.
Go ahead, Carol.
So I agree with what you're saying. What I was originally thinking would be helpful is that, you know, the influencing factors. So the comparators, absolutely, because they're important, because they're consistent. But the influencing factors as a preamble that all of us can use when we face, well, okay, how come you're so high, or why, helps to support, I believe, when we're having the conversations or people are communicating, to support the activities and the actual data. So, you know, some people will call it a variety, but perhaps influencing factors is a better term than filters. But I would find that really helpful.
But that's all there. If you look at pages 3 and 4 of the slide presentation, the 14 points that are there are all the influencing factors of the budget.
So certainly I will develop a tool for myself to use based on that then.
And then the comparators are the same on all of those graphs that are
Yeah.
there for clearance rates and crime rate. Everyone's the same. And I think
Yeah,
the deputy pointed out that they're for up to 100,000 people,
That's 120,000.
120,000. Well, based on the market stats, we should be also looking at 150,000 because that's what we really have coming in the city. So we're probably low on that. If we started comparing ourselves with some of the other ones, it might look a lot different.
It would be more urban areas then.
Just speaking of comparators, the entire time I was on council, we had one comparator that was right across the board, the same as Owen Sound, Brockville. It was always Brockville, including police. But now I didn't hear anyone on council say, oh geez, Brockville's police budget's $2 million more than ours. Does that make it no longer a comparator? Right? It's mind boggling to me. 8 years, they were our number one comparator. And now it's out the window because we're doing so well in terms of budget. I'm not sure. Very frustrating.
Yes, I agree 100%. It's frustrating. And the day of the presentation, or the day prior to the presentation, that came out that they were $2 million more than we were, and you know, I can tell you that's offset. The offset is the revenue that we generate, because we're providing the same service. We've got almost the same number of officers, all of those things. And so, yeah, they are $2 million more, and they are a more direct comparator, you know, size wise, courts, you know, homelessness, mental health and addictions in the community. You know, it is a little bit more of a comparator. 100%.
All right, I think that was a good discussion. I think we talk about it later on and see what happens. Some issues that just came up recently that we need to address. Next item, March meeting date. We're currently set up as March 25th. And I was wondering, change that. Otherwise, your vice chairman would have to take over that meeting.
We'll change.
I'm not sure whether best to move it up to March 18th, which would be a month from February 18th, or whether there's a more preferable. Do you have something on the 18th?
No, that
No?
was fine.
Okay.
I think the 18th is okay.
18th is okay.
I have a haircut.
What time is that? We can move that down. Oh, wait a minute. That'll be short, John. All right. Okay, so do we need a motion for that or just put it on the website? Okay, good. All right. Item F, 2025 opioid situation report.
So this just came through from public health and I thought it was somewhat timely. Yeah, first of December and in the see number of opioid related overdoses early. 42% decrease and 100% decrease in deaths, the fatalities. So it's really gone down nicely for the community. But I will suggest that there's just one. The one thing I would highlight is that 80% of the incidents that are reported are taking place within the city of Oakville. So I thought there was a year in this one. Certainly, one of the things that's taking place is the availability of Sublocade, and getting people on an anti-opioid antagonist certainly has helped a lot in our community. Brent Task West for work with the vulnerable population.
Good, okay. Moving on to item G, the board report on police race and identity-based data.
Thank you, Chief. This report is really just for your information. Just a couple of things that you will be receiving the annual use of force report next month, and there is just a report that was shared publicly last fall that we wanted just to bring to your attention as well. So many of you know that there has been increasing demands over the years for better data to shed light on people's different diverse experiences, data that would help identify and respond to issues of social inequity, discrimination, and systemic racism across Canadian society. Again, this is not something that was on the radar back in 2016, 2017. It really kind of evolved out of the pandemic period and the George Floyd incident and like that. That recognizing that there was racism in our society. So Ontario's the legislative framework that supports some of this data collection in Ontario is the Anti-Racism Act, which provides that framework and a mandate for the collection of race and identity-based data. And following that legislation, there was also the development of Ontario's anti-racism data standards, which would set forth a framework for reliable information to support evidence-based decision-making and promote accountability. So the police use of force data, as I mentioned, you will see our annual report next month. But just for quick background for how that fits into this, it was back at the beginning of 2020 that all municipal police services in Ontario were required to submit a use of force report, which also included a mandatory question to capture the police services members' perception of race of the individual upon whom the force was applied. So that has been going on since 2020, and it's based on perceived race. In August last year, the Ontario Ministry Solicitor General released a report on their analysis of all the 2024 use of force report data across Ontario, recognizing that that was information being collected from a total of over 4 million calls for service. So that is publicly available. I've copied some of the conclusions of that report into this report for your information. I won't read through it word for word, but I did I wanted to share, or at least highlight the first and the last line in the conclusion. So in the conclusions, it did state that there were absolutely differences that were observed in the data between perceived race groups and the rate that officers use their firearm in response, as well as the officer's perception of whether individuals were armed, which was also very important in exploring these differences. And then in conclusion, one of the lines in the conclusion is that the racial disparity results do not necessarily provide an explanation for all of the observed differences, that any disparities do not necessarily imply racial discrimination or racial bias by police. There's many, many different factors involved, and those will, many of those will be highlighted in the report that you'll see next month. But I do encourage you, if you're interested to see that report, it is publicly available. Also, for your information, at the national level, there has also been ongoing work with Statistics Canada and the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police. Since about 2021, they have been doing extensive research and community engagement and consultation across the country on the potential to expand the collection of Indigenous and racialized identity data collection. They're looking at now including it in the Uniform Crime Reporting Survey, specifically for accused persons and victims of crime. Right now they are at a point, they are ready to launch the new version of this UCR survey. At this point, it's voluntary for services if they are interested in starting to adopt. They're calling them early adopter police services that would start to collect this data and incorporate it into UCR along with guidelines and training and community informed engagement. So that is happening. A lot of the recommendations that came with some of those national studies with Stats Canada is also expanding it to other areas, including criminal incidents, as mentioned, traffic stops, calls for service, and other involved persons in incidents. So certainly it's just something for you to be aware of, that this is a whole new area of data collection, and it comes with a lot of training and careful collection, careful research and study. The OACP is also behind it. They have formed an expert working group to develop leading practices to support Ontario Police Services. So as you know, OSPS is an active member in the Association of Chiefs of Police, and we will certainly continue to draw on their expertise and the resources that they have available, and strive to address racial inequities in our policies, decisions, programs, and services. Just kind of a very quick overview of a very complex subject.
Any questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Very good. Got one more item that Ryan had add to the agenda, and it was a policy review on board expenses.
Okay, I just had a motion, like, I'm not sure if I want to change it, but I want to view it. So I would move that we have the policy here to review.
Then it's on 003.
And have a discussion.
So you want, what are you looking for specifically?
I just want to discuss it.
What it covers
Yeah,
compared to,
because the policy is there today.
I don't know what you're saying.
Well, originally it was in a bylaw on board expenses, and it was a per diem meal, per diem rate per day. And then it was changed when we did the policy review with a precedent, and it went from 00, or went to policy rather than a bylaw under 003. And it spells out that if you're going to a conference or anything else and the meals are provided, then there's no reimbursement for meals. If you are away on business, then their meals are provided when you don't need receipts. There's no limit on it, just provide us with receipts.
So are we gonna have this discussion now? Is that what you're saying?
We can if you want.
Oh, I don't care.
Can we see the policy?
So here's,
Oh, no, is it on? Okay, well, we can.
I didn't see the policy. It's there, but.
We can put it in next month.
That's what he's asking for.
Yeah. We can put it in next month, sure.
Are you, if I could ask, you're bringing it forward because you want it looked at? You have concerns that,
Well, I was just concerned just because of the conference that I went to. So it's just what was covered and what wasn't covered. I mean, when I filled out my sheet, you know, I discussed with John and he said, well, you can't put that in. So I took it out. And then I finished it and gave it to him. And then we're discussing the meal I had the night before. And Chief says, well, you could have put in for that, which I didn't. And so I just thought, you know what? Why isn't it just a per diem every day? If there's what John just said, if there's meals provided, then end of discussion. Well, not really, because one of the nights the meal was provided, it was the trivia night. And it's like, so we're all going upstairs, we're gonna eat, we're gonna drink, and we're gonna have trivia night. I don't know, like if Mary and Carol are there, they don't want to do trivia, they're gonna go and have their own meal. They should be able to have that choice. And you know, that's the kind of thing I'm looking at. So it's not the same for everyone.
In that case, the choice was, it could be paid for by the police service, or the choice is they could go and pay it themselves, not attending a trivia night. Right.
So I'm just, my point is, you want people to go to conferences. And if something happens that, well, I'm not gonna go, like if I have to worry about this or worry about that, or it's just easier if it was per diem per day. Like if it was me and I had per diem every day and I had a meal provided, I wouldn't put in for my per diem. Be that simple. But I want to see the policy. That was the whole idea of my motion. I just want to see the report of the policy and review it and have a discussion.
Because I think we reviewed that in 2023. That's when the board approved it. So you would have seen it then, but we can prevent it.
Well, there's enough new members.
We may change nothing. And the other thing is, I want to be able to understand it.
and how does it compare to other police boards?
Sure.
The linkages to other police boards, right? How does it compare? Since we're talking comparators. Sorry, couldn't help it.
See what Rockville's doing.
Motion, or is it just?
No, we'll just do
Agenda.
it, just put it on the agenda for next month. Yeah. All right, we could now have a motion to move into closed and confidential closed.
The motion that the board move into closed session, and upon termination of the closed session, the board move into confidential closed session. These meetings are to review and discuss matters that fall under section 44, item 2 of the Community Safety and Police Act and section 25, item B of the OSPSB General Policy 003 Board Governance to consider A, educational or training sessions, B, litigation or potential litigation affecting the board, including matters before administrative tribunals. C, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the board. D, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employees of the board. E, labor relations or employee negotiations. Oh, moved by myself and seconded by Carol Merton.
All in favor? Carried. Move into closed session now. And for those that are watching the meeting on live on YouTube, the feed will reconnect upon the board returning to the open session to report on the closed session and the confidential closed sessions. If anyone would like to view the remainder of the open session, they can watch the live stream on the Owen Sound Police Services Board's YouTube channel later today. The video recording of this meeting will also be posted on our website.